With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The Trump-Kim summit is back on.
Just over a week after canceling his planned meeting with North Korea's Kim Jong-un, the president says it will happen.
June 12th, we'll be in Singapore.
A meeting he says will be the start of a process that will ultimately end in success.
Now we're going to deal.
The president spoke after meeting here at the White House for a bit more than an hour with one of Kim's top lieutenants, the highest-ranking North Korean to step foot here in 18 years. The official delivered a letter from Kim, a note the president first described as very nice and very interesting, before telling reporters he had not opened it yet, and joked that he could be in for a big surprise. Sagar Mangani at the White House.
The unemployment rate is now the lowest in 18 years. PNC Financial Services Group Chief Economist Gus Fauché says the government's May jobs report contains a bunch of very good numbers.
223,000 jobs added over the month, which is better than the recent average. We saw the unemployment rate fall to 3.8%. That's the lowest it's been in more than 17 years. And then we saw a decent gain in average hourly earnings. So more jobs, lower unemployment, higher wages, all very good.
Average hourly pay rose 2.7% from a year earlier, a slightly faster annual rate than in April. But pay growth remains below levels that are typical when the unemployment rate is this low. U.S. officials tell the Associated Press that the Defense Department will take over background investigations for the federal government, using increased automation to tighten controls and tackle a massive backlog of workers waiting for security clearances. The change aims to address gaps and delays in a system that were highlighted by the case of a Navy contractor who later gunned down a dozen people at Washington's Navy Yard in 2013. On Wall Street, the Dow by 219 points. The Nasdaq rose 112. This is SRN News. 5 years ago, a study found that churches and Christian ministries were doing a poor job at online fundraising. But what about now?
There's very little improvement in many areas, and some areas have actually gotten worse, and the biggest driver is technology.
Christian fundraising expert Rick Dunham.
If I come into a charity website and all of a sudden there's a lot of friction, it's difficult to navigate, and it's difficult to make that transaction, I'm just going to click out. I'm not even going to fulfill that transaction.
He says Christian nonprofits are leaving a lot of money on the table. Abortion advocates swallowed what they said were abortion pills outside a Belfast court on Thursday as pressure grows to ease Northern Ireland's strict ban on terminating pregnancies. Northern Ireland is now the only part of the UK in which abortion is illegal in all but exceptional cases. Last week, the neighboring Republic of Ireland voted to remove a pro-life amendment from its constitution, and now activists are putting pressure on the North to follow suit. This is SRN News. Google claims it's not to blame after a search listed Nazism as one of the ideologies of the California GOP.
Google blames vandalism at Wikipedia for the listing, which showed up in an information box on Google for a short time earlier this week. The listing was quickly removed, but not before a screen capture went viral. Wikipedia's publicly available changelog shows that an anonymous user added the term Nazism to the listing on May 24th. It was removed a week later by an editor, but someone added it again on Thursday. The latest entry was caught and removed within a minute.
Correspondent Wally Hines reporting. Black men with advanced prostate cancer fared surprisingly well in research that challenges current thinking about racial disparities in the disease. Blacks are more likely to get prostate cancer and to die from it than whites, but the research suggests access to the same treatment may balance the odds. In some cases, blacks may do better than whites. More details at srnnews.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington.
Hey, Steve Harvey here for the Illinois Broadcasters Association, and in a recent survey, the Illinois Emergency Management Agency was asked to name the top 5 items that every Illinois family needs to have in their home's emergency disaster kit. Check out these answers. Water, can't live without it. Number 2, non-perishable food. Well, after all, a man gotta eat, right? Number 3, weather radio, and make sure you got fresh batteries too. Number 4, flashlight, even more reason to have fresh batteries on hand. Number 5, first aid kit. Look, there's no reason to feud over what items to put in your family's emergency disaster kit. Get the answers and more at ready.illinois.gov. That's ready.illinois.gov.
Sponsored by the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, aired in cooperation with the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darrell W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Friday, June 1st, 2018. Silver is trading at $16.39 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,295 per ounce. Zencash is trading at $30, and the average price of Bitcoin is $7,422. Antiwar.com reports the European Court of Human Rights concluded a protracted investigation into CIA black site detention centers within signatory countries on Thursday. The European Court of Human Rights concluded that both Romania and Lithuania knowingly hosted such detention sites. Poland had already been found 4 years ago to have done so as well. The secret detention centers contravene the European Human Rights Convention, of which the nations are signatories. The convention prohibits torture, and the courts noted that the nations definitely knew CIA treatments would be in violation of this. The two nations had yet to publicly admit to hosting the sites. Lithuania hosted a site from February 2005 to March 2006, while Romania's site went from September 2003 to November 2005. Lithuania's site included detention of Zain al-Abidin Mohammed Hussein, a stateless Palestinian whom Lithuania subsequently allowed the CIA to move to Afghanistan for further torture. Romania's site hosted Saudi national Abd al-Rahim Hussein Mohammed al-Nashiri, whom the U.S. is seeking the death penalty against. Supporting the death penalty is also in violation of the Human Rights Convention. The court had ordered both nations to conduct internal investigations into hosting of the illegal facilities and to punish all officials responsible for hosting the U.S. sites. Lithuania already did one investigation back in 2010, but claimed the site never hosted prisoners, which has since been disproven. Zencash is the world's first private, distributed, and reliable platform for communications, transactions, and publishing. Zencash has the ability to use both transparent and shielded transactions, with shielded transactions using zero-knowledge proofs. Zencash features global governance with inclusive decision-making, reliable funding for continuous improvements, and documentation and wallets in many languages that are available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices. Learn more at zencash.com. That's zencash.com. UPI reports healthcare organizations based in Boston hope to expand their clinical partnership to engage more veterans with mental health and substance use diagnoses. The groups unveiled the initiative Thursday at the annual conference of the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans in Washington. In a nearly 3-year program, the Boston Healthcare for the Homeless program had set up a full-service clinic on site at the New England Center and Home for Veterans. Lena Asmar, Director of Behavior Health Programs at the New England Center and Home for Veterans, said the clinic is a safe and welcoming environment where caregivers can provide case management and counseling to veterans who are struggling with mental health issues and active substance use. Asmar said other veteran care centers are still resistant to work with folks who use drugs in the way that we do. If they're intoxicated, we won't kick them out. Asmar told dozens of Veterans Affairs managers at the Grand Hyatt Hotel that the clinic applies a harm reduction approach, which respects the rights of patients who use illegal substances and aims to reduce negative consequences associated with drug use. The Boston Healthcare for the Homeless program and the New England Center and Home for Veterans started the office-based addiction treatment partnership in 2015 amid a rising number of opioid-related deaths among homeless veterans in the Boston area. For over 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals. Gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. They don't feed the banks. They're Bitcoin preferred and have removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports 2 people were killed after floods triggered a landslide in North Carolina after Storm Alberto was downgraded to a post-tropical cyclone with diminished rainfall by the U.S. National Hurricane Center on Thursday. Jeff Virginia, spokesman for Watauga County Emergency Management, said rescue workers found 2 bodies after being alerted late Wednesday that the landslide had destroyed a home in Boone, North Carolina, in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Local media reported that heavy rains caused the landslide, which triggered a gas explosion. Video images posted to Twitter by the Boone Police Department showed an apparently charred home reduced to rubble. The National Hurricane Center said in its latest advisory that Alberto has become a post-tropical cyclone, adding flash flood watches remain in effect for the Western Carolinas, Northwest Virginia, and far eastern West Virginia. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
They were outnumbered, out-equipped. They had no chance of winning, but they had one huge advantage: General George Washington.
The fate of unborn millions will now depend, under God, on the courage and conduct of this army. We have to resolve to conquer or die.
Just as the leadership of one man helped form a nation, today leadership can transform the world. Leadership is in you. Now pass it on from passiton.com.
Over 460 million people around the world have disabling hearing loss. Starkey Hearing Foundation provides hearing aids and hearing-related healthcare to millions of patients in over 100 countries. But they need your support to continue helping those in need. Give the gift of hearing by donating to the Listen In campaign. Go to listenincampaign.org to donate today. That's listenincampaign.org.
The North Korea summit is on. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute.
We'll be meeting on June 12th in Singapore.
Kim Yong-chol, a top aide to Kim Jong-un, met with President Trump in the Oval Office to deliver a letter from the North Korean leader. The president says they are in a get-to-know-you type of situation.
I think it'll be a process. It's not. I never said it goes in one meeting. I think it's going to be a process. But the relationships are building, and that's a very positive thing.
The president is optimistic about meeting Kim Jong-un.
You're talking about years of hostility, years of problems, years of really hatred between so many different nations. But I think you're going to have a very positive result.
President Trump is very happy with numbers from the Labor Department. Employers added 233,000 jobs last month. The unemployment rate fell to an 18-year low. A roller coaster ride on Wall Street continued today. The Dow Jones Industrials finished up 219 points. I'm Ed Donahue.
Over 460 million people around the world have disabling hearing loss. Starkey Hearing Foundation provides hearing aids and hearing-related health care to millions of patients in over 100 countries. But they need your support to continue helping those in need. Give the gift of hearing by donating to the Listen In campaign. Go to listenincampaign.org to donate today. That's listenincampaign.org.
Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
And all was Benjamin Franklin wise. So you actually think electricity can pass through metal? Ha! Ben Franklin, go fly a kite.
Excellent idea. Where are my keys?
Besides the bifocals, Ben invented the Franklin stove, the odometer. Whoa! Oh, and the lightning rod. Ingenuity, pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
This is Betty White. I know you don't need one more thing to worry about, but listen. High blood pressure can cause kidney damage, blindness, heart attack, stroke, and you can have high blood pressure even if you feel all right. 1 in 7 adults has it, but it's easy to get your blood pressure checked, and you can treat it if it is too high. So don't worry about it, don't ignore it, just see your doctor and check it out.
For your free booklet, visit the Will Rogers Institute at wrinstitute.org and find us on Facebook and Twitter.
From CBC News, The World This Hour, I'm Tom Harrington. Just when it seemed as if the whole thing had gone south, the summit between North Korea and the U.S. is happening after all. President Donald Trump met with a top North Korean official at the White House this afternoon, and he says he's feeling positive about the upcoming talks. Lindsay Duncombe reports.
Mr. President, can you come talk to us?
Donald Trump told reporters to get ready to travel.
We'll be meeting on June 12th in Singapore.
He made the announcement after meeting with Kim Yong-chol, a top aide to Kim Jong-un and the country's head of intelligence. The meeting was supposed to be brief, but lasted more than an hour. The envoy delivered a letter from Kim Jong-un. Trump described the meeting as getting to know you plus, and appeared to soften his language on sanctions.
I don't even want to use the term maximum pressure anymore, because we're getting along. You see the relationship.
The big sticking point remains. Will North Korea give up its nuclear weapons, and if so, on what timeline. Trump indicated the planned summit was just the beginning of a process.
So we'll see where it leads, but we're going to...
Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
Now to another story that involves the president, the rift over tariffs.
We are imposing dollar-for-dollar tariffs against products from the United States.
Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland says she's heard from many Canadians in the past 24 hours supporting Ottawa's response to the U.S. duties announced yesterday. The new levies, 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum, came into force today. Freeland also announced Ottawa will file a challenge with the World Trade Organization as well as a separate challenge under NAFTA. The Canadian government has a list of retaliatory tariffs it will impose at the end of the month. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Bill Morneau has told his American counterpart the tariffs will harm the global economy. He and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin have been attending a meeting of G7 ministers in Whistler, BC.
We know that in every relationship, in every negotiation, there are times that are more difficult. I have a strong relationship with Secretary Mnuchin, but I took the opportunity to express strongly our views that what they've done is not productive.
To other news now. Nearly 3 months after its general election took place, Italy finally has a new government. Giuseppe Conte assumed the post of Prime Minister at a ceremony in Rome. Conte is a political novice, now leading a cabinet made up of anti-establishment and right-wing ministers. This is his second attempt at forming a government. Italy's president rejected Conte's choice for economy minister last week. Back home now, Calgary police are warning about a scam targeting international students that's picking up steam across the country. Last fall, we reported about 3 cases of so-called virtual kidnappings in Toronto. Now, 2 cases have been reported in Calgary. The CBC's Carolyn Dunn has the story.
We've kind of compiled the best of a whole bunch of scams into one.
Deputy Inspector Jeff Bell says the scheme is elaborate and sophisticated. The targets? The families of international students studying in Canada. Police say scammers operating from overseas pose as law enforcement agents, threatening arrest or deportation. Bell says they convinced the student to go into hiding, handing over all phones and devices.
They don't know that they're actively participating in their own kidnapping. They're under a form of mental duress and psychological persuasion.
Then the fraudsters used the students' social media to demand ransom from their overseas family, often in China. 2 Calgary cases are the latest in a series of virtual kidnappings in Canada and the U.S. Police warn international students to verify the identity of any government or police official who is contacting them. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Calgary.
Newfoundland is getting a new senator. The Prime Minister made the announcement today. Mohamed Revalia was invested with the Order of Canada in 2015. The doctor filled a temporary vacancy in rural Newfoundland and never left. Revalia worked in rural medicine for more than 30 years. And that is your World This Hour. For CBC News, I'm Tom Harrington.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14...
41, 31, 13.
We took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
No basketball tonight, but still some news out of the NBA. I am Keith Irizarry. So the league will not suspend Kevin Love for leaving the bench area in the closing seconds of Game 1. Steve Kerr did speak earlier today and says Andre Iguodala is now, in quotes, doubtful for Game 2. He was at practice, and then let's do these quotes things again. A few things is what he did today. University of Michigan's John Beilein interviewed for the Pistons coaching job on Thursday, as some reports from ESPN have been circling. Dodgers are still awaiting the results on the tests on Clayton Kershaw's back. He was forced to leave last night's game early. Afterwards, he sounded distraught.
Yeah, there's really nothing else to say other than that. I mean, it's beyond frustrating to, feel like you're out of the woods, being healthy, feeling good, and then have that kind of crop up during the game. So, obviously don't know the severity, don't know the length, don't know any of that. But, extremely frustrating, though, for sure.
On the diamond, 15 total games, a few of the headliners, 7:35 Eastern, Nationals and the Braves. Atlanta with a half-game lead on the Nationals in the NL East. Indians and Twins at 8:10 Eastern. Red Sox and Astros also at 8:10. Good pitching matchup there. Chris Sale, 5-2 with a 2.76 ERA, taking on Garrett Cole, 5-1 with a 2.05 ERA. Johnny Manziel is back on the field in a backup role. He'll make his CFL debut tonight for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. French Open, third round, some winners on the men's side included Novak Djokovic, number 20. Grigor Dimitrov was upset. Women's side, Madison Keys, she gets a win. So does Caroline Wozniacki. I'm Keith Irizarry. It's NBC Sports Radio and the NBC Sports Radio mobile app.